You know, when you start a presentation, it's always a little nerve-wracking that you could be coming up here and contradicting or challenging the previous speakers. And I'm kind of relaxed, a little bit, feel more comfortable sharing with you what I think is the most critical thing happening in the food service industry, actually happening in every category, in every industry. And that is the shift from left to right brain thinking, the shift from functional driven decisions to emotional driven decisions, the shift from how we do it to how we make our customers feel. How do we make our employees feel? And we've been on this journey for 36 years. 36 years ago, we were doing work, we'll show you the next slide, for Pizza Hut, and we were reinventing the business, calling it Pizza Hut Cafe. And what we were looking at is what are the brand equities Pizza Hut Cafe owned? And consumers say, well, I don't go to Pizza Hut, I go to the Red Roof. And it was great to see the presentation this afternoon that you went back and owned the Red Roof, because that was very concerning when I saw just a key line of the Red Roof, that they went back and owned the Red Roof, because that is the core equity of the brand. But then we started digging deeper and we found out, why are they calling it Red Roof and why do they connect with the brand? Well, we found out that, 80% of all communication is visual. The bulk of that is color and shape. So if you look at great brands, they own color and shape. So what I'm going to be talking to you today is the intersection of two thoughts. The first thought is a major study that you'll be able to download and I have a QR code very soon that we'll share with you. A major study we did on NPS scores. What is driving frequency of visits in the food service industry? And actually, it's not what you think it is. And number two is, what is the correlation between those metrics and the 7 tenets found in my book, Think Blink? So we developed an AI algorithm. I was lucky. In 2017, I saw the future of AI. I went back to MIT, and I took a degree at MIT for AI application to business. And next week, we're launching an AI tool called AI Think Blink that does the analysis of the 7 tenets of brands. But I'm giving you a sneak preview because a lot of the brands in this room, we've already done the analysis. And what we found out, which I'll share with you, is there's a direct correlation on customer loyalty and the emotional connection and the tenet scores that brands have. So a little bit of history. As I mentioned, we coined the phrase the blink factor in 1993. We trademarked it in 1996. That's 10 years before the book Blink from Malcolm Gladwell came out. So we pioneered the importance of emotional connection. And I have to tell you that when we were telling this story 32 years ago, a lot of the people in this room at that time would have glazed over and say, what are you talking about? It's about removing friction point. It's about speed of service. It's about product selection, product offering, right? And yes, our NPS score, our NPS study clearly indicates those are really important factors. But guess what? They reduce attrition, but they don't drive growth. And why is that? Because it's become table stakes. It's become the cost of doing business. Like brands that own trust. You don't own trust. You're not a brand, right? So a lot of these factors play an important role. So looking at this study, and I'm going to explain this a little bit for you. This is the NPS study. So we had about 20 metrics we evaluated. And the study wasn't done, it was co-done by our firm and by a gentleman, Marbu Brown, who wrote a book called The Blueprint to Customer Obsession. And you can visit his. And we had a data scientist from Bank of America who provided the data analysis. But what you're seeing here, and in the report that you can download, we go deep in a lot of brands. But what we see here is when you see 0, that means that's 0 outstanding. So when you look at brands like Chick-fil-A, only 39% of them say their brand's not outstanding, whereas 66% of consumers said that a Starbucks brand is not outstanding. Every time you move from the 0 to 1, it drives 200% more visitation. So every time Chick-fil-A, look at the percentage, Chick-fil-A, 39%, then you move to 1, that's 22% that the experience was outstanding. Then you moved extremely outstanding, and then far right, extremely outstanding. So as you move towards the far end, it's a clear indication of the frequency of visit, right? And so it's important. And then we go deeper into the analysis of what that means and what are the key drivers, and the four key drivers of what causes that, well, I'll call it the wow factor. Number one is that the experience meets the customer expectations consistently, that they go from one location to the other and it's the same experience. And that experience is exceptional, right? Look at the scores. Number two is that the employees are empowered to solve issues with their customers. That they don't have to go, let me talk to my manager, or let me talk to this person or that person. They can say, hey, we didn't deliver on your expectation. We're going to make it right. Right there on the spot, no second guessing. Three is food that's fantastic. Not food that's great. Food that's fantastic. Food that they're willing to photograph. Food that they're willing to share pictures with their friends. And we'll get to that, why that's important. And the last one is great value. But you remember now, value is not price. Value is what they get and what they pay for, right? And what they get isn't just food, it's the experience. You get a discount product and a bad experience, that's low value. But you have a product that's competitive, but an outstanding experience, and that's high value, right? And so value is a combination of a lot of factors, it's just not numbers. So we looked at this, and then we launched our AI model, and it looked at about 80 different source points for each brand. We looked at the annual reports, we looked at employee ratings, we looked at their annual reports, we looked at a variety of, and we looked at Starbucks, Shake Shack, and Chick-fil-A. Shake Shack was in the middle when it came to NPS scores. Chick-fil-A was at the top, and then obviously Starbucks was at the bottom of the ratings of the NPS scores. And what you see here is the emotional connection. On emotional connection, inspirational design, these are the tenets. Emotive brand story, contextual design, sense of belonging, measurement, engagement, anticipating the future. And what I was very relieved at was if you look at the presentation that Starbucks shared with you, and if you look at the Pizza Hut presentation, they talked about owning joy, owning an emotional moment. They talked about the importance of design, but not just design from a standpoint of materials and finishes, but how that experience, that design features made them feel, right? Starbucks used to be my third place, but I stopped going. Why? Because there were really uncomfortable seats. And it was great to see that they were fixing the seating package. Number one factor that annoyed me. Then when you have emotive storytelling, right? Emotive storytelling, Starbucks, talking about community and the importance of community, and that leads to the sense of belonging. It's so important. We've done a lot of studies in the role that community plays in brands also. What we found out there is that brands that demonstrate community commitment in food service, in banks, and retail drive higher customer loyalty. So sense of belonging isn't just about showing, elements of the community. What's your commitment? And do you articulate those commitments in the communities you serve? Do they know we're doing this big chain here in LA called WSS, their footwear retailer, in underprivileged communities? And they're doing incredible. They're busing kids to baseball games. They're giving running shoes to all the kids on the games in sports they couldn't afford. But nowhere were they telling that story, right? They're not getting credit for the commitment they have to the community. And then measurement. We talked, it was great, the question that Michael asked, Starbucks, how do you measure the metrics? And it was great to hear. They said, it's not looking at just, functional benefits. It's not just looking at, NPS scores. It's not just looking at, order accuracy. It's a lot of other things. And the brands that are winning are measuring the emotional equity that they have. And we did a big study in 2021, Measure What Matters. We did analysis. We interviewed CFOs and executives in a variety of industries. We asked them, how do you measure performance? And then we asked consumers, how do you measure companies? And they were like this. No connection, right? No connection whatsoever. Consumers evaluate you on how you make them feel. You recognize them as patrons. Whereas institutions are looking at the performance, wallet size, frequency of visit, day part, all of these things that actually disconnect with the consumer. So what is so important? And that is the key driver of growth, that the sharp edge of the NPS score, the sharp edge of the NPS score, is creating shareable emotional moments. Moments that they're willing to share with their network. And don't get me wrong, we did a whole analysis of Starbucks on their social media strategy. Fantastic. Their adoption of their app is right through the roof. I think they've got the largest customer base adopted the app. Their commitment to crowdsourced ideas beats anybody in the industry. But when you dig down deeper, what do you discover? It's all focused on products. It's not about the experience, right? And this thing of NPS scores is they're willing to share their experience. So are you creating these shareable moments in your restaurants? We do a lot of work. We have an office in Shanghai and another office in the Middle East. Every retail concept we do has to have a selfie location. It has to mandatorily have a location where customers can take selfies because they know the power of social media. They know the power of brand ambassadors. They know that drives growth. That's more effective than any media dollars that they spend. So, are you creating emotional, memorable moments in your restaurants? When you're designing your restaurants, are you looking at how do you make them, how's this design making them feel? Yeah, don't get me wrong, eliminating friction points. How can someone love and feel emotionally connected to your brand? If it's a pain in the butt, ordering from you, the order accuracy is terrible, the service is terrible. Of course, those are fundamental, foundational things that you need to fix. They get in the way of owning the emotional connection, right? But it's the emotional connection, these shareable moments that are going to drive growth for you, visitation. So I just want to walk you through the 7 tenets, just quickly, we don't have a lot of time, how they apply. So, tenet number 1, which is really own the hearts versus the mind. Coca-Cola owns happiness. Dove owns real. Dunkin' Donuts owns comfort. Disney owns magic. I would say Pizza Hut owns joy. Fantastic. What does Starbucks own? Somebody here from Starbucks? No. It'd be interesting to find out what Starbucks owns. Is it community? Is it third place? What's the third place? That's a physical thing. That's not an emotional thing, right? What does your brand own from an emotional standpoint? What are the key emotional factors? Or the one you own? Volvo owns safety, Staple owns easy. What's the one emotional word that you own for your brand? And how do you use that as a foundation to personify your brand? Design. I think the whole conference is about design, how you improve your design from apps, the facility, seating, the transactional process, the back house, the front of house. Those are really important. They provide context and an environment that delivers on that customer experience. But design's a lot more emotional. It's how are those designs making them feel, right? How is it playing up to the emotion, to that one emotional factor you want to own? Number 3 is really to own simplicity. Allow that brand to be simple, focus on the principles. So Chick-fil-A, high quality, Starbucks, it's a third place. What is the one phrase? What's the purpose that you can articulate to your employees, to your franchisees, to your consumers? What is the one purpose that you've been put on the planet and that your facility, your restaurant, your brand is delivering? Can you articulate that purpose? And is the purpose you have now relevant? Is it anchored in functional needs? We provide accessibility and blah, blah, blah. Or is it we inspire people to live a better life? We inspire people to discover tastes that they'd never had before. We create craveability in people's lives. Those are emotional purposes. There are a lot more motive in how people engage with brands. Then 4 is conceptual, understanding who your target group. I was looking at, it was great, the Pizza Hut, you said fast, slow. You've defined there's two customer segments, and I would say Starbucks is the same. You've got customers coming in, they pre-ordered their beverage, they're going to their office. The less interaction they have to have with you, the better off they are. They just want to pick it up and go. That's okay, right? On that one occasion or two occasions, maybe you can slow them down to spend more time, maybe have a meeting in the cafe, have a conversation with a colleague, get them out of the office. You know, too much screen time, needs some, share time. There's opportunities to do in the slow. Understanding who your target group. In the case of Boston Pizza, we identified their core target group. We call them unmet segment of the marketplace. And it was Little League sports teams. Where do they go after a game? Where do they go to celebrate that they won? There's not a lot of places. And so Boston Pizza developed these fan rooms, these team rooms, where you can go and celebrate without disrupting the entire restaurant. And if you want to go and watch a game with your friends in a restaurant or at a bar, Boston Pizza has it for you because they celebrate the fan. Tenet number 5, so sense of belonging. My first book that I wrote was Belonging Experiences, and it was all about that if you want to aspire, if you want to create aspiration for your customers, the doorway to aspiration is belonging. We're animals of belonging. We live to belong. Why do people still go to cinemas? You can watch the movie at home because they want a sense of belonging. They want to be out, visible with other people. That's in us. How does your brand facilitate that? It was great, again, to hear Starbucks talking about this sense of belonging, that they're creating these environments where people can come back in and feel like a sense of belonging within their cafes. Fundamental. Are you pushing your customers out? Or are you keeping them in? And that's a big debate we always have. Well, we want table turns, we want this, we want that. Yes. But what's that experience? If you're pushing them out, what are you telling them about the value they bring to your business? And then how are they going to share those moments with their colleagues? This is Dairy Queen. And then we pioneered emotional research. We were one of the first firms to use neuroscience and virtual reality to test retail concepts. It's funny, very few people have tested that. We tested it for a financial institution in China. We did a test to evaluate a virtual experience, and then we took the goggles off, we kept the cap on, and we walked them to the actual physical bank. We asked them to do the same journey, and it was amazing how accurate the two experiences were. The only area that it didn't work is the size of the room. And then the last, and this is Hot Specs, is another model we use on the equity of the brand. And then future-proofing, we heard a lot of that. What's your plan B and C? We predicted the pandemic. We do trends every year, we predict. What's your plan C? Well, I was going to wrap it up very quickly. I'm out of time. Please read my book. And if you don't like reading, just read the first chapter. It summarizes the entire book. And if you're a little braver, read the first chapter of every chapter, and then read the final section that gives you tactics and strategies. Explore how these tenets apply. You can see how they apply to Starbucks, how they're revamping their brand by applying the tenets. And always ask yourself, does your work pass the blink factor? And here's a barcode for the study if you want to scan it. I'll be emailing you the study after this conference, the full report. And thank you very much.